the players are ready. We're going to have Johnny on your left with that Jeskai Wizards deck, which honestly, Devin, when it's over, I'm playing on Moto. And then Lucas Parson on your right with Domain Zoo, ready to battle it out. It looks like no pregame actions for Zoo.
Yep, and so we didn't mention this, but Lucas Parsons' deck list, there is a couple of new cards here in the form of 2 copies of a Johnny Nakato Pariah. This is a card that we've seen kind of more popular in the Boros Energy decks and some Mardu decks, but I mean, it is still a card that provides 2 bodies, which can be very good. It's a little bit hard to kill, and it kind of gets your opponent into a position where if they kill the token, then you get to flip the Ajani. Sometimes you can even kill your own token to flip the Ajani or chump block, and the Planeswalker provides a ton of value, especially when you have other red permanents like the Ley Lines and the Kavus.
Yep, and we are going to see a wild Nakato come on down. A card once banned in Modern. It's been freed, and it's been doing some solid work in this deck.
Honestly, Mason, they got to reban it at this point. It's too good.
It's just too good. Speaking of might be too good, we got Flash Titan of Fire's Fury surveilled away. That card has been an all-star in these interactive decks, and surveilling it here is a nice way to actually turbo it out.
Yeah, every time I see a Flage or an Archon of Cruelty surveilled, I wish I could be that lucky,
Yeah, I definitely, like, one of my first games I ever played with the card, surveilled it away really quickly. And I was like, ooh, that feels good. Love that. As we're going to see a Steam Vents and attack here for 3 from Parson, knocking Johnny down to 17. So, excuse me, it should be, I think, 16? Thought he fetched. Maybe I missed it.
No, I think Johnny just played 2 surveillance, so it should be on 17 here.
Excusez-moi.
Yeah, end of turn, tune the narrative. That'll get Johnny up to some energy, potentially towards Wrath of the Skies, although Wrath of the Skies for extra energy probably not going to matter a ton because most of the creatures that Lucas is deploying is either 1 or 2 mana, Ragavans, Kavus, and whatnot. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Mason. I don't think we're gonna see Wrath of the Skies killing a Scion of Draco this match, but I wouldn't be surprised, and I would like to see it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned the energy not mattering a lot. It's either gonna not matter at all or be hyper important. There's no in between, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out here over the course of this. As Johnny just plays a land and develops and passes the turn. Lucas, like I said earlier, no stranger to playing these kind of matchups, loves to play these sort of creature-y, beat-downy decks and battle it out here. And it's gonna have to play through some interaction. You see his friend Christian Valenti, part of that team with Ryan Bellamy, at top 8 at one of our events a couple events back now, but they've definitely been playing a lot of our events and doing well. Sure, he would love to see his friend in the top 4 matches. It looks like Scion Draco is going to come down, and he has a Stubborn Denial for it, and that's really large in lots of different ways.
Right. Yeah, now there is still 2 energy floating here for Johnny, so if we do have another copy of Galvanic Discharge, and I do see a Flame of Anor in Johnny's hand as well, so that can cleanly answer the Scion of Draco. Ideally wanted to have like a Tameo this turn. You could imagine land 4 Tameo and then kill your Scion, draw 2. That would be a really good turn here for Johnny. Probably just going to have to settle for Flame of Anor, kill your Scion, then cast the Preordain Cantrip.
I kind of like the idea of holding up the Spell Snare as well, because I think if you're going to Preordain, you probably do it before, because this is going to resolve. It's open deckless, there's no force. Yeah, you see Lucas's face there. He made a little bit of a look like, what's going on? Like you had to think about that. So Lucas kind of picking up, there's something going on in Johnny's hand. He's not sure exactly what it is, but he's going to play this Scion. And even though it only costs 2 mana, Spell Snare doesn't quite get it.
I know. Mason, I paid 2 mana for my spell. Why can I not Spell Snare your spell that costs 2 mana?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool design. If it was a different card, it'd be kind of cool. But in the world we're living in, Spell Snare unfortunately can't get it. Maybe an unset Spell Snare could. Counter target spell with a converted mana cost 2 or 12.
No, it would just say counter target spell if its controller paid 2 mana to cast it, right? Like
2 mana to cast it too. Yeah. That's kind of nice. We're gonna see some bottoming, and then we're just gonna see Flage come back right away here. And Lucas Parsons' deck does play stuff like Leyline Binding, but this is kind of where Flage is at its best. You get it down ASAP, and then these sort of creature-y decks don't have the time to push damage on you and then do something like Tribal Flames you out. If Lucas is going to do that, he needs to have a lot of it right now.
Yeah, I kind of didn't realize exactly what the graveyard count here for Johnny was, so I was not keeping track of that. But yeah, there's being able to just go cast the cantrip into that Flage. Just like, it's really, really such a backbreaking card. It really means that it's going to be harder for Lucas to burn out Johnny because the 3 life every turn, with stuff like Tribal Flames and things like that. And yeah, it's going to be very hard. Lucas, like you said, Lucas is definitely going to need a copy of Leyline Binding.
Yep. Now, he's got a handful of spells, and Johnny is tapped out. Lucas doesn't know Johnny has 1 Force Negation in the deck, so there's a chance for some interaction to happen. It looks like Leyline Binding is going to be the play.
Binding. Yep. Flage is going to get taken care of, so Johnny's going to need an additional threat here. I think I might have seen another copy of Flage in his hand, but with no graveyard, it's going to be a ways away from that one. We know about that Spell Snare that's still there, and I think the last card might be a Wrath of the Skies.
I think so too. And notably, Wrath of the Skies actually would kill Leyline Binding, which would get the Flage back in the graveyard. It wouldn't kill the Draco, but on a future turn, we might see Lucas do something like, deploy like a Territorial Kavu. We might see Johnny try to clean it all up and then get Flage back in play and get a little bit of damage on Lucas here. Because, you're right, Johnny does have a Flage in hand, but didn't choose to develop it this turn, get it in the graveyard and get a little bit of a life buffer. So valuing holding up his mana here instead.
Okay, there's a Johnny that we finally found a target for Spell Snare. I mean, Johnny just wants to fire. Oh, we're firing back here for Lucas. This is weirdly enough probably a pretty good spot here. Or if you're Johnny, you're happy because you kind of wanted to fire off that Wrath of the Skies anyways, and now the stub is not available for the Wrath.
Yep. And, you're going to get a little bit of a life buffer as well with the Flage re-entering play if you do the full amount. Now, we might see Johnny leave up something like a counter spell, depending on what he wants to do here, but pretty interesting. Looks like the players are talking about, it looks like they're just talking about the cat.
Looking for a cat.
Meow.
You can't find the proper cat.
Well, that isn't the proper cat token either.
No, it's not.
That's not a Johnny's brother. That's not.
We're gonna need a judge over there. How many surveil lands are beyond for Johnny? We're on, I believe, just the 2. Okay, so does not have a 3rd surveil land to be able to fuel the Flage a little bit better. But yeah, we can go. Kind of depends on whether or not Johnny wants to represent something. Like if, say, you brick, do you just tap out to get enough energy for the next Wrath, or do you maybe posture a little bit, hold back, hold up some mana?
Yeah, given how Johnny's played, I imagine he might posture a little bit. Now he drew a tune. That's huge. That lets him turn 1 mana into 4, into 2 energy up to 4.
So we don't have enough yet, right? 2, 4, 8. We can do it for 8, right?
Yeah, it looks like maybe there wasn't a Skies in hand. Maybe we missaw it there. As here comes Flage, Titan of Fire's Fury, and that's going to probably end up shooting down a Johnny proper. And it looks like Lucas is going to maybe bolt the brother of a Johnny to transform his a Johnny. Kind of a slick play there.
Love it.
And that denies the 3 life from the Flage on the lifelink. So it's kind of like Lucas got to bolt Johnny still and got this Planeswalker for it. So a powerful one of that.
It's basically just counterspell plus make a Planeswalker, which is a really good spot here for Lucas.
Massive.
And now Johnny on 11, so this, presumably the Scion's going to put him to 7. You can make a cat token. Then the next turn you can use the Johnny to make the cats a little bit bigger, and that would be 7 damage, presumably. And, funny enough, Mason, Wild Nacatl also happens to be a cat, so that a Johnny Plus ability gets an additional counter on that Nacatl, too.
Yeah, Cat's Typal is the deck name here. It looks like Giganta is going to go into our hand and an attack for 4th Draco, and Lucas is in kind of a nice spot here.
Yeah, I thought I saw the Wrath, but apparently I saw wrong, and I believe this might just be lethal even with the removal spell, because if you kill the Scion, the Ajani Plus is still 3 + 2 + 2. That's 7 damage.
Yeah, but the Flage comes back.
Do we have enough? Because he has a fetch. Okay.
Yeah, so if he can grab any land, and he can go, discharge, kill the Draco, then Flage kill the Nacatl, I guess, because it's the biggest cat, and then be at 10 life. And Lucas, they'll be top decking, and this is where Flage is at her strongest. We mentioned, the fact you can play one early. Typically, it's like she gets removed and you bring back the same one. In this case, the new one will be quite good.
Yep.
Interesting. Going after the Ajani.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of wanted to go after the Scion with that, and because if you wanted to, you can just Flage the Ajani, right?
Yeah, Flage can hit any target. So
yep.
Maybe Johnny is not worried about racing the Draco and just wanted to prevent this like wall of cat tokens, and also wanted to go upstairs with his Flage so that he can potentially threaten lethal. Clearly thought about his line and has his plans ready for him. So
yeah, well, the issue with this line is now even if you gain 3 life. We get a reader. You gain 3 life off of the Ajani, you go up to 9. The Scion puts you to 5. You still have that Tribal Flames off the top.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit of an awkward spot to be. Let's see what Lucas has on the top.
The Tribal Flames.
Giganta and something in hand.
I don't think it was Tribal Flames.
I think it's Territorial Kavu.
Okay.
Honestly, one of the better draws might have been Leyline of the Guild Pact, just as a way.
Oh, to, with the Scion.
Yeah, just get lifelink and gain hexproof for your creatures would have been pretty massive here.
Yes, there's the Kavu, but the Kavu doesn't necessarily block the Flage profitably because you can just go Flage, attack, kill the cat, and then you have a 6/6 versus a 5/5. Now, how does that race look? Where Johnny says, okay, attack, deal 3 to the cat, and then I go up to 8. You probably, maybe you just take it and go to 2.
Well, yeah, you take it
up
a
lot of mana. What is this?
Yeah. So this is a...
Oh.
Well, there's no... You would definitely attack first. So he might just be doing it for X's 2 and it's going to kill Lucas. Because he's going to put all the energy in and then spend the 2 and then attack, shoot Lucas. And Lucas is going to die because the last card in hand is Giganta. And yeah, that Wrath Disguise, it's a lot like a Wrath, but sometimes it doesn't kill everything, and sometimes it's exactly what you need. Johnny moving up 1-0. That's right. Yeah, just wanted some energy. That is one of the weirder things about it, right? Like you can dump in a ton of energy to this card. It would not actually spend it all when you have the spell Resolve. Very strong with things like Aether Revolt, we saw in the set as well. But let's check out these players' sideboards and see what they have here. Lucas Parsons going to have 2 Tashrani Tidebiter, Giganta is the companion, 3 Consigned Memory, a Meltdown, 2 Pick Your Poison, 2 Prismatic Ending, a Wear Tear, 2 Damping Sphere, and a Rest in Peace. Devin, what do you like here and why?
From the domain zoo side of things, so you could potentially, these players do have open deck lists, so I guess the Rest in Peace for Flage could be something, maybe similar thing with Prismatic Ending, where if you're worried about, when it comes back, you want to exile it for good. I'm going to be honest with you, past that, maybe Tishana's Tidebiter, which is sometimes good against the flashback of Flage, but there's not a ton here for Lucas. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, the sideboard has a lot of cards for a lot of spots, but not a ton in this one, in my opinion, at least.
A lot of anti-combo cards,
Yeah, and it looks like Lucas is kind of like preparing to fight those things. Honestly, this might just be a spot where we just see the Rest in Peace come in as an anti-Flage card, anti-Snapcaster, and like that might be all we do. Maybe you bring in a Prismatic Ending as like, yeah, I actually don't think I can get there on like, bolts or whatever. And so I just want to have, an answer to Flage if it somehow stick. Maybe you like trim a Leyline. I'm not exactly sure. Domain Zoo, not a deck I've played a ton of personally, but does not seem well positioned for this game. But let's check out the other side and see what they have going on here for Johnny's Jeskai Wizards deck. We have 3 Drannith Magistrate, 2 Subtlety, 3 more Consigned Memory, 2 Celestial Purge, another Wrath Disguise, a Force Negation, 2 Wear Tears, and a Dress Down. Devin, what do you like and why?
Yeah, both of these players, it feels like both of them have sideboarded very, very heavily for the combo matchups, and ultimately maybe they don't have a ton for each other. But I will say, on Johnny's side of things, we have an additional copy of Wrath of the Skies. That one seems like a slam dunk. The Wear Tears from Johnny are a little bit better than the Wear Tears from Lucas, because Lucas has Leyline Binding and Leyline of the Guild Pact, so might want to go towards those. Similar reason for Purge, where Purge is very good against Guild Pact, not as good, but it still kills Territorial Kavu even without the Guild Pact. And maybe the Dress Down, because that card's also very good against Territorial Kavu.
Yeah, I like the idea of Dress Down here. You can also like have it convert against a Scion if you do have the Leyline as like a way to, open up a removal spell to actually kill that card. And, it's just like a cantrip, Pretty interesting. Dress Down, made to fight Kavu. Time for it to do its work. Also, you might just unlock the sit-in, the hidden secret mode of end of your turn, I'll play Dress Down, my turn cast Flage, have leyline binding or you are dead, and
Oh
just hold
yeah.
up interaction the rest of the game. So we'll have to see how the game goes as those players are shuffling up. This is the first round of our top 8. We're going to give you as much magic as we can. Let's head on down to that feature match area. And I'm really excited to see, I'm not exactly sure what our backup feature is. I know that we have one, but a lot of exciting and cool decks here in the top 8.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I was looking at the standings towards the end. I thought there was going to be a lot more Nadu. I believe there might have been at least 4 Nadu decks in contention, and 2 of them have made it to the top 8. So it looks like the other 2 had ended up losing. Um, so yeah, this was an interesting tournament. Like you said, there wasn't a lot of Ruby Storm, not a lot of Scam. We ended up seeing a little bit towards the very, very end, but it does seem like these players kind of gravitated more towards the control decks, either Jeskai or Azorius, and then alongside the Nadu decks. Those seem to be the breakout decks for me.
Yeah, I think the control stuff, it's really telling that like these are decks that can still perform, and when they have clear targets, they can do well. But when there's a lot of differing things that go in different directions, it can be a bit more a problem. And one of the things we saw is we had a lot of I should say this, we had a few number of Eldrazi Prison players who made it kind of far, but not far enough. And if that deck picks up in popularity as people, one, just get the cards, which you can do over at nerdragegaming.com. Check them out there with great shipping and prices for you. But, it might take a little bit of time. Maybe you're not sure, right? I know personally, I'm like, I want to wait a little bit before I make any big purchases and figure out exactly kind of where I want to spend my cash. So I'm going to be curious to see over time how these things develop, because there's a lot of different decks and it can pull people in a lot of different directions, and they're all very powerful.
Absolutely. So it looks like I think Lucas may have kept 7, and I believe Johnny is on 6 right now. So getting a look at some cards here. Saw Snapcaster, Spell Snare, Tameo, Flage, couple lands, and Preordain seems like a perfectly fine hand here for Johnny. And see if whether or not Lucas has that dreaded Leyline Scion. It's one thing that we have not seen a lot today, Mason. I know a lot of people were talking about the Leyline Scion. As I say that, no Leyline here for Lucas. A lot of people were talking about that, prior to MH3. That was one of the big talking points, but seems like that has mostly fallen by the wayside.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like when it first happened, everyone was freaking out. Rainbow Rhinos, what we're gonna do. And as weeks went on, it was a part of the metagame, but it kind of fell down a little bit. And then as Violent Outburst got banned, we saw that the Leyline Zoo deck really supplanted that one, and it's good, but it's not like unbeatably good, and just kind of puts pressures on what players can do.
Absolutely. So we got a Triumph here for Lucas. See what the turn 2 is. Very, very likely going to have a some kind of 2-drop here, probably a Territorial Kavu, perhaps a Nishuba Brawler. And actually, as a matter of fact, maybe it's neither. I see a Rest in Peace pulled to the front here for Lucas.
Yeah, I think Lucas is trying to figure out, do I play around Kill Spell or Spell Snare? Because this Rest in Peace is so good if it sticks, but if there's a Spell Snare, he's gonna wish that he had done the Brawler, but only if that was the only answer. Now it does look like Johnny does have a Spell Snare.
You see the shake of the head here for Lucas. He knew the risk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know one thing to note too, and this is open deck list, so Lucas knows Johnny has access to it. Wrath of the Skies is actually really, it's an answer. Like, it's a lot better against Rest in Peace because you can just clear it up. And when all of Lucas's creatures kind of coalesce around 2 or less mana, it's a situation where he's going to find himself getting a lot of trouble with Wrath of the Skies if he does not have a flip to Johnny or a Sign of Draco in these games. As a Preordain is going to get castier for Johnny to sculpt his hand a little more.
Yeah, and looks like a bunch of removal and a Flage in hand for Johnny. That's kind of exactly what you want. You just want to clear the board, kind of play a little bit small ball, kill stuff, play a Flage, and like I said, I've been very, very impressed at how good Flage has been in these games, being able to both stabilize, like. A lot of people are comparing Flage to Uro just because that's the easiest comparison. They're both 3-mana legends. They flash back, and they both do similar things in terms of like gaining you life to help stabilize. But in some places, Flage can kill creatures and maybe even help stabilize the board even better than what Uro could have done before. And it's definitely showing with these Jeskai decks.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, Uro is stronger, right? Going up a land, up a card, or potentially a land, right? When that matters in the early game, up a card, those things matter. in practice, it is not, and it wasn't lost on me when I pitched it either when we were working on the card that like Flash is stronger than Uro in some contexts. If you get that down against a deck like Burn or Prowess, just killing their creature is almost always better than drawing a card and putting a land into play. So, the card is not weak. As we are going to see Galvanic Discharge, another not weak card. As you see, I love the way I play against Lucas a lot. He has that where he's like, am I getting tricked here? Like on his face, where it's like, yeah, I just got to stub it or whatever. I don't have another choice. And Galvanic Discharge is looking to get answered here. I don't know if it's a Spell Pierce or a Stubborn Now or something, but he might have the Steam Vents in hand and might not have a fetchable answer. I'm not positive. He might have something that makes it work. Maybe he doesn't get the
Breeding
mana
Pool?
he actually wants. Yeah, Breeding Pool is typically in these decks, especially with this Triome. So
looking at the mana base, he has Breeding Pool and Steam Vents. What are the odds he has both in hand, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We got a Steam Vents.
He seems unhappy about something, but yeah, anyways, it's a very, powerful card, Flage, and we'll have to see exactly how it goes. Devin, I noticed you didn't put Flage as your pick for the best card in the set when you did your set review. And it now seems like the best time to bring that up as to why you hate me. But we'll get to that in between the games. You just think about it now. As a Shock of the Holophant comes in, and we're seeing Flage come on down.
Well, Mason, if you saw my actual number one, you would know.
I did.
Okay.
I watched your video.
Okay. There you
go.
I thought you watched up until the point where you saw Flage that wasn't number one, and then you stopped watching.
No, Devin, I've waited like almost 2 years to talk about these cards. I've watched an ungodly amount of content about MH3, as we are going to see Dragantha go in the hand, and that's a bad sign if you're a Lucas Parson fan, because that was a turn he needed to keep the pressure going. And now this gives Johnny a chance to do something like fetch, put a Flage into play, and it could be disastrous.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how this, like, I didn't even, like, I wasn't really paying too much attention to Johnny's graveyard, and it's just like all of a sudden, oh wait, now it's turn 4. I guess I'll just cast this Flage, and all Johnny really did was just like cast a couple of spells, right? Spell Snare, cast Cantrip, played a removal spell, and just the cards that he wanted to play anyways. And now we're going to be rewarded, with a 6/6 that Helixes. This card's messed up, Mason. Really good.
Yeah, well, that's my card for you. I was talking to Drake about the beginning of the round today about how worked on the set. Very excited to see it being played, and there's a lot of like kind of like a parent with their child's first baseball game or soccer game, where it's like, come on, slugger, get them, and
I believe in you, Johnny.
She's doing it,
Yeah, and like. These aggressive decks, it's almost nearly impossible to race this thing. Once it's in play the second time, what are you supposed to do? It's basically representing 6 damage, which, maybe that matters, but also it's basically gaining effectively 6 life, right? You're killing a creature and you're gaining the 3 life, which is, it's near impossible to race this thing. And as somebody who's been playing a lot of Prowess over the past couple of days, that's a card that I really do not want to play against.
Yeah, that one is tough. As we're going to see a fetch here, it really, cards like Static Prison, Leyline Binding, those can be good, cheap, efficient answers to Flage, but a lot of the decks that Flage is just an absolute house against don't play those cards currently. Now maybe that will change with Static Prison and Prowess. Maybe we'll see players move that direction. But, for the most part right now, when that card comes down, if you're playing, Swift Spear and friends, you better have them already dead. As we do see, Lucas has the Binding here and double Tribal Flames in hand. And it looks like he's just going to bot Johnny.
Bang!
I love that he just shrugs like, 10, take it.
What's your life total at? Take it.
Yeah. And, they're just playing Johnny at 6 life. Can't help but wonder where that 6 life come from, as we do see a Surveil.
Yeah, there's there is a counterspell, thankfully, for Johnny. But so no energy in reserve, which means we have to, ideally for Johnny, maybe kind of wants to find like tune the narrative to get up to 2, because then you can maybe eventually get to like Wrath of the Skies to kill the Binding, but that seems maybe a bit far away.
Yeah, it's definitely a couple turns off, but luckily Johnny's done a good job of having to take a bit, and this Dragantha gets Celestial Purged, which Lucas, that was kind of a free quote unquote card for him. He didn't have anything else to do on that turn. And really wishes he caught a counter spell there, not a conditional removal spell.
Yeah, Johnny picked up a subtlety. Now I wonder if you're in Johnny's position, do you just cast it and put Lucas on a 4-turn clock with the counterspell in hand? I kind of like it because
Mhm.
if Lucas doesn't have the removal spell right there, you get to untap with counterspell up.
Yep. I like it a lot. And you get to push a little bit of damage. And if you do get to enough mana to kill the Leyline Binding, the Flage can come into play again and deal an extra 3. So starting the race now can be pretty beneficial to you. And it looks like Johnny's actually got Wrath Disguise on the mind here, as he might just Wrath for, X's 1 and kill the Wild Nacatl, and then continue to hold up this counterspell.
Ooh, drew a spell snare too, so now actually has access to 2 counter spells up. Can cover like another Travel Flames, can cover a Kavu. And with this subtlety in play with 2 counter spells, it's gonna be hard. Lucas has to draw multiple spells in a row that matter.
Yeah, it needs to be like Draco so that the spell snare can't be used.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
one.
All right. What is Lucas's last card in hand too, Dad? I haven't been able to make it out, but it doesn't seem to be anything important.
I think it might just be a land that he's just hanging on to. Maybe if he resolves a Kavu, he can discard it later on. Picked up a land here for Johnny. That's going to put Lucas to 2. Big draw step here. I don't think there's anything. If that last card's a brick, we're done because that counterspell covers everything.
Yeah, I don't know what Lucas could draw. I don't think there's any uncounterable cards.
No.
But, he is going to fetch and, maybe grab a Surveil land. Don't know if he has another one.
Yeah, presumably if Lucas's last card was relevant, he probably would have cast it by now. So I'm guessing it's likely just a blank piece of cardboard that we're holding on to.
Yeah, especially when Johnny was so low on mana last turn, it was forcing him to have counterspell. So it makes sense that he's probably just, like you said, trying to set up a future territorial Kavu. Those sort of small decisions matter a lot, right? Like it's very easy to just deflect, deflated, play your land, and then you draw your Kavu, and you're like, dang it. I wish I could have looted this away. But Lucas here is going to untap and see if there's anything that can help him get out of this. And his eyebrows raised.
Surveilling the life total pad. I mean, we know there's a counterspell. Lucas doesn't know that, obviously, but.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one, but counterspell is going to answer it. And Lucas is going to extend the fist bump. Congratulations to Johnny Bressett moving on to our top 4. Congratulations to Lucas Parson putting up another top 8, getting some leaderboard points. Lucas definitely, in the area for most of our events and is going to be at all of them. So you're going to see more of him and hopefully a chance at our championship at the end of the year. But congratulations there. I'm going to see if we can get our backup feature match because we do have another match going on in our top 8. I'm actually unsure which one it is right now, but production will let us know in a second. We'll hop over there if we can. And here we go. We have Patrick versus Garrick. Now, this, I believe, is actually live, not time shifted. Garrick, someone who plays a lot of our events and plays control and plays it very well. Patrick here playing Nadu. We saw our winning in last round against Scam. Kind of did a great job playing through those cards and is in a good spot here. Looks like up a game.
Yeah, and funny enough, Garrick is playing kind of the Narset Days Undoing version, I believe. Let me just pull up Garrick's list.
He's on Team Flex slot. He's doing Narset Days Undoing.
That is a good point.
That's how you know.
So, yeah, Garrick is on the 1 Days Undoing and the 3 copies of Narset. Funny enough, and this is kind of a similar thing with Nadu versus Orcish Bowmasters, even though Nadu puts the cards in your hand, it doesn't draw the cards. Mm-hmm. So Narset and cards like Narset and Bowmasters do not stop the Nadu from working. Which is, normally a tactic that you would employ against decks like this. Garrick is kind of doing a small energy package here. We have the 3 Wrath of the Skies, and I believe that might be the only energy card as I'm scanning the deck list here. Yeah, so just Wrath, no Tune the Narrative, no Galvanic Discharge, kind of more traditional threats like Solitude, Subtlety, Binding, Prismatic Ending, things like that.
Yep. And to see exactly what's happening here. I'm pretty sure the way it's lined up, that's a bestowed Nantuku onto the Nadu.
And what's nice about that is, say Garrick goes to have if Patrick can leave a fetch land uncracked and Garrick goes to Prismatic Ending or Solitude that Nadu, Patrick can say, okay, in response, crack a fetch land, pay, make a copy, keep the new Nadu, and still get to keep the Nantuko around.
Yeah, so lots of very cool lines that come up here. Looks like Garrick is untapping for the turn at 12 life, a handful of cards. Interesting. I'm kind of curious how this game got to this position. Both players seem to have like a decent amount of resources and lands. Kind of a weird one.
Yeah, looks like there was a binding in the graveyard. Not exactly sure how that got there. Maybe it got destroyed somehow. Guess see Garrick eyeing a one ring. Can't exactly see what the rest of the hand is. Um, yeah, looks like the graveyard. We got a Wrath of Skies. Maybe took a care of a couple early like
Mhm.
halfling. I see a halfling and a drum in the graveyard for Patrick. So that was probably what happened early on, and then maybe a cantrip or two along the road. But we'll have to see what Garrick wants to do. Now, as far as the One Ring is concerned, we kind of talked about this a couple of times. Depending on the win condition that the Nadu player is playing, protection may not necessarily buy you the turn that you think it would normally. And Patrick is playing the Thassa's Oracle. So even if Garrick has protection, Patrick may not even care about that.
Yeah, and it looks like Garrick's going to start things off with a Leyline Binding. Court of Calling in hand for Patrick. Could cord for something like Sylvan's Safekeeper here. One of the definitely, stronger cards reprinted from the past into modern via MH3.
All right, so Patrick is going to resolve the Nadu trigger first. Now, I wonder, you mentioned the Court of Calling. Like you said, you maybe just go for Sylvan Safekeeper, try to protect. It looks like that's what we're going to do. And Garrick has the counterspell. Okay.
Yeah. And that Nadu is going to go here now. Once again, Nantuku falls off in quotes, but since it's bestowed, it's still in the battlefield. And wow, Garrick's tapping out for the Kahira.
Yeah, which means if Patrick has access to a second Nadu, that Saga can go get a Shuko, Spring Heart already in play. That Nadu top deck may or may not be should just be a guaranteed victory here if Patrick were able to find it. And he's moving
Yeah.
pretty quickly with that Shuko, so
Yeah, I have to think that if you're moving that quickly, you're feeling good about stuff.
Dr. Yad. And let's see if Patrick has. Well, we're tapping creatures, so very likely a Court of Calling.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. Court of Calling. Does Garrick have Force of Negation? Does not. And there we go. That's going to be the Nadu, which means we're going to get to look at a minimum of 10 cards just with the creatures in the battlefield. And assuming Patrick does not brick horrendously, it may already be deterministic. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, there's 6 creatures in play, which means we have 12 looks. Every land is 2 more looks, and we have 2 lands already. So I think you have to hit all spells from this point forward, and none of them can be the cheap ones that are in the deck. So
that fetch land is probably going to seal it.
Yeah, I think this is pretty deterministic here. Some of those things were, untimed rounds. Garrick's in the top 8. He probably understands that he cannot win from here, but it doesn't be a 1 in a million chance. This is his time to do it, down a game, and sort of just make Patrick go through the combo and make sure that he doesn't hit that insanely small fail rate. But we kind of know that's not the case. It is possible Garrick has something like, I don't know, like maybe subtlety, but like that would involve everything going perfectly. Like every creature would have to have been used, and he's subtleties the Oracle, and then like needs to mill, but I don't think that's the case. So it's looking low.
I don't think that is the case. Maybe there's a situation where like Garrick has Solitude in hand, and he's like, okay, maybe I'll let Patrick draw his whole deck, then Solitude something. You know what I mean? Or like not the whole deck, but like draw to like 4 or 5 cards.
If you have Solitude, you definitely Solitude the Nadu as soon as it comes down. Like I thought the same thing at first. I was like, oh, we picked up the Kahira to have a white card. But I think it's just a situation where, and if that is the case, I could be mistaken, but my gut and thinking about it is just, if you're going to go for it, you need to go for it sooner than later. We watched, Adam Weiss in round 2 wait on the bolt, and it ended up working out for him, but it definitely could have backfired. So yeah, and we're going to see Garrick. He's just picking up this 2-minute stuff, and congratulations to Garrick on this top 8 finish. A great showing here for Team Flex Slot and some great leaderboard points. And congratulations to Patrick. Moving on to our top 4. I'm going to see if we were able to pull someone else over to the other feature match area while we were watching that match. Maybe someone was in between games. We're like, hey, come over here real quick. We'll find out in a second. But so far, we know we have at least 1 Nadu in our top 4 and 1 Jeskai control.
Yeah, we'll have to see exactly kind of how the rest of the bracket shook out. See if maybe Nikachu was able to take it down. We had a living end deck on the other side of the bracket. Um, other Just Guy deck, and then what was the other deck? The second Nadu deck. Yeah, so there was the other half of the bracket was Nadu, the other Just Guy deck, Merfolk, and Living End. So we'll have to see how those matchups played out. But yeah, there's some pretty interesting magic, and the Just Guy deck that from Johnny Brissett has looked very, very good when we've seen it on camera every single time. Flage looks like an all-star, and I'm kind of with you, Mason. I kind of can't wait to play that deck.
Yeah, I got it queued up, ready to go as soon as we're done here. I'm gonna go to the gym and then play some Jeskai. But we do need to finish our top 8 first. So we're gonna take a quick break while we figure out what the situation is here, and we'll be back with Magic as soon as we can. See you soon. Uh-oh, production left us. We're stuck here, Devin.
We're here by ourselves.
Yeah, I think what maybe happened is I mentioned trying to get one of the matches to move, so it's possible the person did that. So we're kind of stuck here, and we're just going to talk to y'all for a second, I guess, if that's the case. So Devin, we've been talking
Mason.
about MH3 a lot. We've been seeing a lot of stuff. What's some of your favorite cards you've seen so far in these decks?
So I personally have been a very, very big fan of the Eldrazi decks. Kind of the more I've been working on the more aggressive versions, kind of with like Eldrazi Mimic and things like that, which we haven't seen a ton of over here. But that's a deck that I have been spending a lot of time on, and I'm getting note by production. It looks like we may actually have Nikachu's Game 3 for you guys. Not sure if we're ready to go down there, but potentially that might be what we're going to next.
Yeah, it looks like that's what's happening. They're shuffling up and they're moving their stuff over. Production, if we're going to ask for a lot, let's just ask. We have the 4-color versus Jeskai control matchup going on. If they switch matches, let's put them in the backup. Let's get as many matches as we can. We're here to commentate. We're not here to sit through ads, even though we do love our sponsor, Ultimate Guard. Thank you so much, Ultimate Guard. You're amazing and everything like that. But we want to see some magic. Come on. That's what we're all here for.
Speaking of ads, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen of the Twitch chat, if you are enjoying the content, be sure to hit that follow button. It'll let you know when we go live, get notifications, because you don't want to miss any of the action over here. And I'm looking in our camera down there, in production camera, and it looks like the players are sitting down. Remember, we're going to be getting Nikachu versus Drew Buchanan, game number 3. Drew Buchanan was playing
Nadu. Yep. Yeah, Drew doing that. Someone who's got a couple top 8s. I believe even a finals appearance, if I remember correctly, here on the NRG series, but hasn't got that win yet. Tweeted out, Nadu is broken. Play it while you can. A strong proclamation. Let's see if Drew can get the title today with the broken deck. And we'll get a game count as well. From what it looks like right now, the way they're setting up, it appears to be game 3. We know it's at least a sideboarded game. We can't move players if they are in a game. We can only catch them in between. So we were very lucky to have that happen here as we wait a second to get everything set up. But yeah, I'm very excited to see, because this is one of the things that we talked with Nikachu about earlier, right? He was like, hey, I think the Merfolk deck is good against Nadu. He's like, I got pressure. I have some interaction. I've got disruption. I kind of have it all. But I'm just not seeing Nadu. I'm not running into it, right?
Well,
and so he's finally run into it.
Now he's gonna have the opportunity to put his money where his fish is. And yeah, so I'm looking at the sideboard here for Nikachu, and I'm just trying to think of what we're going to be boarding in here as far as this matchup is concerned. So I guess Harbinger of the Seas, maybe to bounce early Mana Dorks. Tishana's Tidebinder lines up pretty well against Nadu. And then Subtlety, yeah, okay, so Nikachu does have a pretty robust sideboard for this matchup.
Yeah, very prepared for this one here. He kind of knew what he was doing. What is this?
I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine.
0, 1, 2. Oh, used counters for Nadu. I bet you there's like a pile we're doing. We just kind of have that ready to go. Drew here, part of team The Fast and the Teferius.
Oh, for the tokens. Okay, so each time you equip a token, you just move it into a pile. That's kind of cool. That's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, just make sure to keep everything clean there. Drew tweeted about how Sean Gallagher, someone in our championship, already won an event with blue-white control in standard, kind of the breakout for that deck. And he said, Sean did a lot of work on this. Thank you, because you crushed it. And, that team's trying to get multiple people into the championship. It's going to be exciting to see how that goes.
The Fast and the Teferius, what a name, that's an absolute banger of a team name. I love it.
Yeah, if you're not going to be like team ultimate guard or team, whatever, I like having the haha he he name. Team flex slot. Okay, you're marketing the brand. I get it. That's cool. The Fast and Tefarious, that's what I'm about.
Yeah, come on.
Let's do it.
You
We
gotta
are
make
going
sure
to.
you gotta make sure there's no copyright issues there, though.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just a silly name. As we are going to be playing our entire top 8 today, we are still in top 8. As a reminder, if you just joined us here, we had our 2 main features. They finished, and we were actually able to grab these players before they started shuffling up for game number 3 here. So we're going to get to see them as this is our number 1 versus our number 8 seed here.
Love the smiley face, by the way.
Yeah, it should have made it like a beak like Nadu, though. That'd have been kind of next level.
That's too much effort.
Well, art, art takes effort. Let's see what Drew has here. It looks like Jonathan better than his Nikachu, the Merfolk Masters, keeping his 7.
So one thing worth noting here, we've seen a couple of different versions of this Nadu deck. We've seen Bant Nadu, we've seen 4-color Nadu, and Drew is listed as Bant, but there is actually a little bit of a difference here. Drew is playing Arboreal Grazer, and to the best of my knowledge, I do not believe most of the other Nadu decks that we've seen have that card. So kind of interesting where Arboreal Grazer is a way to accelerate you. It's a little bit more of a, it has a higher toughness, so it can block Ragavans and things like that, and is a way to just, have another creature and play to trigger Nadu.
Yep. Doesn't have any infinity shenanigans like we've seen with the Titan version of the deck, where it plus Sprinkler and Tuku goes infinite. But it looks like Jonathan Miller's Nikachu just had a 1 lander with double vial, and it's going to present both those vials, then pass the turn to Drew, basically saying like, okay, my hand's all action. Just going to take a second to get there.
If you got 2 vials, you don't need a second land, right? Everything's fine.
Yeah, the 2 vials kind of are your lands, right? Like after this 1 turn, Nikachu will be doing more than if he had 2 lands in hand.
It was really funny there, Drew, looking through the sideboard, and I'm looking at Drew's deck list right now, and I see the 2 copies of Force of Vigor, and as soon as I saw Drew look into the sideboard, I saw the forces, and I was like, if only,
Yeah, if only Drew would be sitting pretty here. And looks like Drew is going to play another Snowcard Forest into a nod to the Winged Wisdom, the boogie bird of the format.
Uncounterable, but not unsubtletyable. But it looks like Nikachu does not have the subtlety. We're going to vial on 1 here, presumably a Dockhand or a Tide Shaper. See which one we have.
Look at his face. He's like, actually, is this even good? Am I supposed to hold this for a force negation or a subtlety? Which I think is a real question to ask. Like it is just a 1/1 right now. It will grow with time, but these little decisions matter a lot if you're going to play a deck like Merfolk.
This is the bluff activation. You do it on Moto sometimes where you just activate the vial. This is the IRL bluff vial activation,
If Nikachu was bluffing and took this much time with this much effort, I would call a judge on him as coverage and be like, okay, we got to speed it up. I understand it's untimed. I love a good theatric, but not this much. As Jonathan is,
decided not to.
Yeah, and that is a viable play. I know a lot of the new Zoomers have never played with Aether Vial because it's a card that kind of fell out of favor, but it's a may put into play. So like you mentioned, you sometimes activate even when you don't have anything to make your opponent do something to play around something like a Thalia maybe coming in.
Well, I mean, now if you're Drew, do you believe the bluff? Do you think he has the Tide Shaper? Well, I mean, now that he's casting it, you probably understood what was happening last turn, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would believe it just because he took so much time.
He did take so long.
It looked, and it wasn't like he is Nikachu. We've watched him a couple of times today. He's a very theatrical person. I like it a lot. He's playing up. He's enjoying Magic. He's loving it. The fact that he took even that long, it's like the man does have respect for his 1 life on Earth. He knows that he can't sit here forever. So it looks like Colony Garden was the pickup for Drew. A nice land when being an extra bio Shuko, but tapped here means we can't deploy the 1 ring.
Yeah, see a Safekeeper, a Colony Garden. I don't know if Drew has access to Spring Harden to go this turn. I think that might be the missing piece here. But with Sylvan Safekeeper and a couple of lands, maybe you can just try to like Safekeeper into it.
Yeah, it looks like he actually did have an untapped land. And is choosing to play it here.
Yeah, and it's a spot like this where if you're in Drew's spot, do you even need to go for it? You're on 19. There's basically no pressure in play because the issue with going for it is if you safekeeper sack your 3 lands and miss, now you stoneman yourself 3 times. So it might be a spot where Drew just says, "Yeah, I'll wait a turn. No reason to just try to go for it here. It's a little too greedy."
Yeah, and Nikachu can put a lot of pressure on here. One of the interesting things is he doesn't actually have any permission outside the Voldaren Hexcatcher, which is the lord that lets you sacrifice a Merfolk in order to essentially force spike a non-creature spell. It also has flash, so it's one of the ones that you can play via just casting. And he's going to get in this Lord of Atlantis now. So if he draws a land, he's going to be able to put a ton of lords into play and maybe push a ton of damage against Drew.
Yeah, I was gonna say math time. How much damage is 2 lords here? 14, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Well, no, because Drew doesn't have an island, so it's only 12.
Sure. Yeah, that is true. So 12 still a lot, and it's going to put, Drew basically dead on board. And it might force Drew to do something like he might tap out for this One Ring to try and, buy a little time, and it might get answered.
So Nikachu, interestingly, did not choose to... Okay, so we're going to cast the Hexcatcher and then presumably vial in the Lord after this. Now, if you're Nikachu, I don't think we had the Tiebinder, did we? Because if we did have the Tiebinder, you could consider stifling that fetch land.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think this is a spot where... Dress Down coming in. That's going to turn everybody just into normal creatures.
Normal fish.
Yeah. Dress Down, a card we talked about being good against Nadu. I wonder if Drew has this for the mirror as a little bit of tech that, is very good against Urza Saga as well. But we're going to have to see how it goes here. As now it's just going to be 4 damage coming across here.
Yeah, I think it seemed like Drew had motioned there were no blocks for part of the body language. So I think Drew declared no blocks, then Nikachu played the Lord, and now Drew is casting the Dress Down. So like you said, 4 damage puts Drew to 14, but I believe that is still going to be presenting lethal next turn, right? Because especially with the second Island Walk Lord, now that Drew has presented an island.
Yep. And notably, Drew here fetching all basics, playing around Harbinger of the Sea, does not want to get, locked out via that card.
Yeah, and I know one of Nikachu's last cards is the Lord. I don't know what the other card is.
Yeah, I think it's another Merfolk, but I just don't know which one it is. Can't be countered due to Delighted Halfling. So we're going to get that trigger now. If Nikachu had the Tidebinder Mage, could stop the protection trigger here.
I think we have Tishana's. So we're going to Tishana's the protection trigger, untap Vial on the other Lord, and I think that might just be lethal.
Yep. Drew now can draw in response, and if has something like a Celatine in his deck, could stop this, but doesn't look to have anything. Yeah, and I think this is probably lethal. We might see Drew out. I think Drew can maybe get out of it still. If we start sacrificing our lands, Devin, and we hit untapped lands off the top, we hit the Pact, so we can pact for the Spring Heart, play the Spring Heart, sack another land to it, and then hopefully go off.
So we get 4 looks to try and find presumably 2 untapped lands, but then you need a 3rd untapped land to trigger the Spring Heart Nantuko. It's going to be a bit dicey. It is possible, but I would say I don't know exactly what the math is here because I didn't take math in high school, but it's going to be very, very difficult to see. Oh, well, we're not going for it. Never mind.
Yeah, there might be some other line we're missing where Drew can win, but currently these all have Island Walk and is lethal. Oh, and he's going to sacrifice the island.
Sacrificing the island. Oh, my goodness.
I forgot, too. For some reason in my head, I was thinking it was forest. I wasn't going to correct you. I was like, you got to sacrifice forest, but whatever. I'm just wrong. You can sacrifice any land. And this is what Drew was maybe hoping for. Maybe he thought it's too risky if I actually, start sacrificing and try and hit the Nantuko. Instead, I'm going to, sack this here. And Drew knew. Drew snapped it at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Zach attacked. So
totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and you see Nikachu's like, oh, I forgot this too. And can my hand do anything about it?
You could clearly tell, like, he was motioning. He just moved his creatures so fast,
Yeah, and we're seeing a Dismember go on this Nadu. Now that's going to trigger the Nadu, which puts Shuko in hand.
It's a good one to have on top.
Yeah, I guess if we had gone for it last time, we maybe would have won, but here we are now. So we're going to target again. We get the Misty. This one's been used twice. This one has Shroud. And I believe we resolved all the triggers so far. So we need to sacrifice more lands if we're going to do anything.
Yeah, for those of you wondering at home, so there's a token that's a 0, 1, and a 2. Those numbers represent the amount of times that the creature has been targeted. So very, very, appreciative of Drew that Drew is putting that on camera for us, because it's a lot easier to track when you have things like that.
Yeah, on the turn when you're actually comboing, it's so easy. You just move everything to the left, or the right. But when you're having these sort of interactions happen, this is greatly appreciated. So glad Drew came prepared for this. Now I think Drew's doing some math like, okay, can I even chump block to survive? Because we talked about it before, Drew was dead with Island Walk for sure, but we didn't really do the math. There were blockers because, we thought we couldn't block. So looks like we're counting it up here. So the strongest Tidebinder is going to be a 5/5. That's or 5/4, excuse me. That's the biggest creature. No, 6/4. So you can block that one. And then all of the lords are 4 power. So that's 8 if you block another one. And then the Tide Shapers are 4 as well. So that's 16. So you need to block 3 things. And Drew has 3 things, but one of them is Nadu.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, can we fetch for Dryad Arbor?
Oh, yeah, we can fetch for Dryad Arbor. If that's in the deck, I think it is.
We're getting
most of these display it. Looks like it also could be in Drew's hand.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Dryad Arbor would let you just block with 3 and then keep the Nadu in play. Because like you said, Drew is going to be in a position where he now has to chump block with the Nadu. We have the Shuko in hand, but is sort of still unable to get that Nadu.
Wait, Devin, it goes even deeper. What? Because if you leave 3 going through, we go to 1, and the 1 ring has 1 burden counter on it.
The Tidebinder, though, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, if the Tidebinder dies, you can't kill the Tidebinder in combat. You have to leave it.
Oh yeah, you would. Yeah, I'm presuming we're chump blocking the Tidebinder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those situations where sometimes you might block in a way that kills the lords, which accidentally kills the Tidebinder.
Yeah,
so you need to make sure that you put like a plant or something in front of Tidebinder. Is more what I'm saying. Yeah. So Oracle's picked up.
Yeah, it's like, I guess the question for Drew is, how do you like even have enough stuff to try to go off next turn with just 2 lands and a Delighted Halfling? I guess it's like untap land, Nadu, Shuko, because we know about the Shuko, and I guess we know about the pack too. So just missing an untap land.
Yeah, I mean, I think Drew can maybe win. It's one of those spots where honestly, Nikachu went for this. Remember, if he had held it, he might have actually just been able to win.
Okay, there's the Nadu. So 4 mana, Nadu, Shuko. Not deterministic yet though, because this is.
Yeah, we can sack to make the Shuko pay 1 with the Villain Hex Catcher. That's right. It's all non-creature spells, not just instants and sorceries. Congratulations to Nikachu. They're moving on to our top 4. Drew put up a great performance there playing Bant Nadu all weekend. Snuck in on 8th, had to win his last round. Played incredibly well. Congratulations to you there and getting a lot of points. Hopefully we'll see you at our future events and grinding up that leaderboard. But Merfolk now in our top 4, Devin. So we know 3 of our top 4 decks. We know it's going to have a Jeskai Wizards, a Nadu, and a Merfolk. And if you're Nikachu, you're very happy to hear one and very unhappy to hear the other. Yeah. As we know that the other side of the bracket are 2 other decks that he's probably not super excited to play against as well, with 2 different Jeskai variants. Now, I'm unsure if we were able to have those players move over to our backup feature match. We're going to have to see on that. Once again, we can only catch them
asking a little too much.
Yeah, it's asking a lot, but maybe they move to game 3. It's really easy once they're moving to game 3 to have them switch over. We're going to see here, and it looks like actually that match has been decided. So let's jump in and just see our top 4 is, Devin. No need for a break. Really quickly, we'll shout out our sponsor, Ultimate Guard. Thank you so much for production here. We're going to have Nikachu versus Ryan Bellamy on your left here. Merfolk versus Jeskai Control. I mean, Devin, that's probably the match we have to watch, right? Like, we got to see if the Merfolk can go the distance. On the other side, Bant Nadu versus Jeskai Wizard. Johnny has been playing great. I hope he can take down the villain that is Nadu, as it looks like a very, exciting top 8 into an exciting top 4.
Yeah, that last match was I'm still reeling from that Pikachu matchup. That was
Mhm.
a heck of a third game that we get to see. But like you mentioned, this is probably not the pairing that Pikachu wanted in the form of Ryan Bellamy, but I'm very, very interested to see how the Merfolk deck is going to stack up against the Just Guy control deck. Ryan Bellamy, this is a list that we had not seen yet. It's, I think, a little bit different than what Johnny was playing. So this one has Solitude. This one actually has the One Ring and Null Drifter alongside Dress Down as well. And I don't know if you're looking at the deck list, Mason, but there's 4 main deck consigned to memories for Ryan Bellamy. So this is definitely a tuned list. So we'll have to see. Not sure exactly what consignment is good against in the Merfolk deck. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure
Good against
exactly.
Vile.
Yeah, that is true. Probably some other abilities that you can stifle, like
Mhm.
ETB Tidebinder, maybe, or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure what match we are starting with. I don't know if we could get a note from production about that, or
I
if the
would
players
personally
are
love
ready.
to see the Merfolk versus Jessica. I think we're just kind of doing this on the fly here.
Yeah,
We've seen
same.
not listen. We've seen Nadu. Twitch chat's seen Nadu. We've seen it. We haven't seen Brian. We're gonna see Nadu at some point. It's gonna be a long game with Johnny. Let's see. Will Merfolk get it done quick or die pretty quickly? That's kind of their matchup here versus Bellamy's. So if we could start with that one, great. They're both going to be in our feature match area, though. We only have 2 spots. We have 2 matches. It's going to go great. We are taking a second as those players are running to the bathroom here. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get some water ourselves. We'll be back in just 1 minute.